And we're proud to present it for the very first time here in the Coachella Valley. And it is my distinct pleasure right now to welcome one of the stars of the film. And you may also know him from the television series Breaking Bad, where he plays Saul. Bob Odenkirk is here.
Hi, you guys. Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for coming. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming out to see this movie. I love this movie. It's close to my heart, and I'm proud to be a part of it, and I'm glad to share it with anyone.
So,
absolutely. You clap for this movie.
Yes.
You clap for this movie. In a time when movies can't seem to get big or loud enough, to make a quiet movie about a part of the country that you never see on screen, and it's a big part of the country, and I think subject matter that you don't see either. Alexander Payne went out on a limb and he took his Oscar credits, because he got an Oscar last year for The Descendants, and he used it to make a small movie that is a quiet film and about things that usually that aren't very sexy, right?
Absolutely.
But still, I think a lot of people are relating to this movie. I have so many people telling me, I thought I was the only one with a messed up family. I really did. I really thought, wow, I relate to the guy, because my dad had a problem with the booze, and I've had so many people tell me it reminds them of their family and relationships in their life. So that's really great.
So I guess when Alexander Payne calls and says, I want you to be in my movie,
listen, some people have said, so what attracted you to the role of Ross? The words Alexander Payne wants you to do it. It's, the guy's a great filmmaker, and he's at the top of his form, and anything he wants you to be in, you say yes,
the black and white, I saw the film last week, and the black and white is interesting. Obviously, just beautifully shot. That last shot is so stunning. Why do you think it's important why was it important for Alexander to make the film in black and white?
I mean, it's a very simple answer, but I think there's some truth in it. He said when he read the screenplay, he just immediately pictured it in black and white. I mean, he just saw it that way. And you can analyze that, and for me, it's a simple story. It's got simple points of reference, and black and white is kind of almost like outlines, right? It's just the bare bones of people and their choices and who they are, and I also think that landscape is really, and he also did it in CinemaScope. I mean, we fill this screen, right? This is what they used to shoot westerns in, that ratio of height to width, and so it's all those things together. I mean, people say it's not just me. It reminds them of Ansel Adams, Walker Evans, those old photographs, and it's about a part of the country that's fairly depressed at this point. And so I think it's just appropriate in so many ways. I think it's beautiful, some of these images. It takes a little while to get used to. But once you get tuned into this movie and where its heart is, and you start to watch the clouds, and they're beautiful, and the trees and the cows and the fields and just this big wide landscape, I think it justifies itself, and it's probably more beautiful this way than it would be in color.
Yeah, it's stunning to look at. It's interesting to see you and Will Forte. Both have a Saturday Night Live background. When I think of you, I think of Saul, and I think of your Saturday Night Live work. I certainly think of Will from that. From Saturday Night Live as well. Generally, sort of comic in tone, I think, in historically for you guys.
Oh my gosh, we've done such broad comedy our whole careers. I did a show called Mr. Show on HBO, a sketch show, and I wrote for Saturday Night Live for 4 years and helped with Tim and Eric, this little offbeat comedy show. And
I think we played their $1 billion movie.
Oh my goodness, well, quite a different experience. Yeah, we've done a lot of comedy, Will and I.
So why do you think Alexander, it's such a,
Well,
a somber film? Why do you think?
I've read for about Schmidt and Sideways, so he knows me and he's seen me over the years. And I was on Larry Sanders' show, and I did movies like The Spectacular Now this past year, and so I've done dramatic or semi-dramatic stuff. So he's seen me do it. It's not that I've never done it. It's just that Alexander actually had never seen Breaking Bad till about a month and a half ago. He came up to me at one of the first screenings of this movie and said, "You never told me you were good at this." He had just seen it for the first time. He'd watched the show and liked it a lot. Yeah, so I think he's an open-minded guy, and he goes off people's energy. He said he originally pictured Bruce Dern in that role. And then later, years went by. He's had the script for 8 years, and when it came time to be able to do it, he talked to a number of people. I guess he mentioned in interviews Gene Hackman, but Gene Hackman, I guess, is retired, and he talked to a few other people, and then fairly quickly went, "Why don't we see Bruce Dern on it?" Because that was his first choice. And then Bruce came in and was kind of perfect. Wasn't he perfect? Bruce, by the way, let me talk about Bruce for a minute, if you don't mind. Bruce is 76. He's in great shape. He doesn't walk like that. He does have a limp from a running injury, but it's nothing as pronounced as what he did here. He overplayed it for the character. It was right for the character. He is completely on the ball and will talk your ear off and has incredible stories and is a very sharp guy. He's never drank, ever. And he doesn't hardly touch caffeine. I don't know if he's ever had that by accident, but he's never had alcohol, despite being a friend of Jack Nicholson's. And he's a great guy, filled with stories and filled with energy. And when I tell you that, I mean, I just hope that you can see what an actor he is. I mean, he was Woody Grant. Every second he was on screen, he was lost in the memories, whatever that character's going through, the breakdown, the physical breakdown of drinking his whole life and getting to that age. And maybe the frustrations and disappointments of his life. He was that guy every second he was on screen, and it was like a deep character he was playing. But as soon as they said cut, he was out of that and telling amazing stories about, working on Corman films, and he told me some stories about walking Marilyn Monroe home from the Actors Studio. I mean, this guy's seen it. He's been in 2 Hitchcock films. He's in Family Plot and Marnie. So he knew Hitchcock, and I mean, amazing guy.
Alexander seems to be drawn, you mentioned a couple of his movies, to characters who are a little bit lost. And he's also kind of moving demographically. I think about Paul Giamatti from Sideways, and I think of Nicholson and About Schmidt, and I think of George Clooney and The Descendants, and now Woody in this film. What do you know why he's drawn to that sort of character? I don't. You'd have to ask him that. I don't know if I guess people who are in a point in their life where they're lost and looking for something are compelling stories to tell, and people who are perfectly fine with what is going on in their life are probably completely uninteresting and not worth your time. Is everything okay? Great. Go on. Carry on. We don't need to hear your story. Yeah, I mean, I guess to me that's kind of true, And Matthew Broderick in Election. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
An unsatisfied guy who is looking for satisfaction from the world, trying to get some feeling of respect.
And Reese Witherspoon totally messes him
with his
up.
head, yeah.
So I got to ask a question about, Bryan Cranston obviously is one of the co-owners of Cinemas Palme D'Or.
Great man, great actor. And when people ask me great actors, I've worked with Cranston and Bruce Dern. These guys are very similar in their mastery of the form and their ability to take their energy and focus their energy just like that and then come right out of it talk to you, chat, and then boom, become Walter White. I mean, that was amazing, the transformation you would watch.
Before we take some questions, I want to ask just how Breaking Bad changed your life and your career.
You know, you mentioned I've done comedy, and I've done a lot of comedy, and I've done more than we talked about. I have a huge long list of credits, and I've worked since I was about 25, and I've had a real good time, and it's been a great career. I've been very lucky, but I never had the kind of fame that Breaking Bad has, nothing even close to it. And if I was in a room of any size, I could tell you that person and that person have seen my work, and it was based on their tattoos that had my face on them. Because it was like, I have this like cult audience who just love that comedy that I've done so much. But now, this is a whole wide swath of people all across the country, and in fact in other countries. I'm shooting a show right now in Calgary. And when I went across the first time and had to do the interview with the Canadian immigration guy, he was telling me about how much he loves Breaking Bad, and then telling me that his sister has just started watching it in Romania. Wow. So
it's interesting how the show sort of grew, because
snowball,
it's
big time.
And by the time you got to Aaron Paul was here at one point,
yeah.
and was a very big deal, and then it turned into this thing where, I'm on the radio every day, and we were talking about the show, and people were saying, "No, I'm behind. Don't talk about it." And
yeah.
Everybody, by the time you got to the finale, was watching it. What do you think the ultimate appeal was?
Well, a couple things happened that were fortuitous. I mean, first, it's just a very well-written show. Vince Gilligan writes it with a staff of 6 people who are fantastic, and Peter Gould, I'll mention in particular, who wrote the Saul Goodman episodes, many of the ones that feature that character the most. But Vince Gilligan ran that room and did a great job. He's a master storyteller. And I think it just... Netflix changed things because it's streamed, and it's a show that if you've watched it, you want to watch the next and the next and the next. There's constant cliffhangers in this show, so you're hungry to see what happens next, and the ability to just keep watching was not something anybody had unless you just had all the DVDs. But here it's on your computer, boom, you hit the button and you get to watch the next one. And so that just... a kind of viewing happened with Breaking Bad. And by the way, there's a lot of people who still haven't seen the last 5. They come out Monday on DVD, or Tuesday, or whatever. We do an event Monday. The next week they come out, and there's going to be a lot of people who are like, finally, I get to watch, and people can talk around me again. I can take my headphones off. But this ability to just watch it in a streaming way didn't exist before, and now it exists, and a show like that can benefit so much. And who has watched it? I've had so many people come up to me who blew my mind. I'll just give you 2 in the last 3 months. Dick Van Dyke. How do you deal with that when you're me? Dick Van Dyke, I want to meet you. You want to meet me? I don't think so. I think I want to meet you. And last week, Jack Nicholson hosted a screening of this. And his assistant comes over and says, Jack wants to meet. He just finished streaming Breaking Bad. He watched the whole thing. He loved it. So that's crazy. That messes with your head. Something's wrong. Is this... so just a little name dropping, but it's fun, right? It's amazing. It's one of the fun aspects of Hollywood.
And I saw the Anthony Hopkins letter. That was
another one. And the Anthony Hopkins letter, holy crap. I don't want him looking at me. I'm so embarrassed. No, he didn't watch me. Who made him watch me? Fact.
All right, I want to...
Anthony Hopkins wrote a very nice letter complimenting the whole cast of Breaking Bad on our acting. And I'll take it. But really, let's face it, right? It's the writing, right? Because it's not like I tried when I did Breaking Bad, but I didn't try any of the other times I acted.
And I think Anthony Hopkins said it was the greatest acting he had ever seen.
But he also, his letter was great, because his letter complimented the whole crew. I mean, he said you don't get a production like that unless everybody is working at the top of their game. So he's a perceptive guy. He knows what's up.
All right, I want to hear from some people here. Yes, sir. I want to repeat the questions just so. Is the piece in Calgary that you're working on, is that the spin-off from Breaking Bad?
No, it's Fargo. It is a TV series based not on the characters, but the tone and sort of the touchstones of the movie Fargo, if you remember that movie. And it's really a great script. It's got all that mood, all that comedy, that black comedy from that movie, and that part of the country. I was set in the same place as called Fargo. It'll be on FX. I'm in it. Billy Bob Thornton, Colin Hanks, Martin Freeman. I don't know if you know Martin. Great actor, and a girl named Allison Tolman, who's nobody's ever seen. Chicago girl, complete unknown. Great actress in the main core role. And actually the director who directed the pilot is Adam Bernstein, who directed a lot of Breaking Bads, and I've just had the greatest time shooting the first 2 episodes, but I think you're going to really enjoy it. It's very funny,
the
very
movie's
dark.
Incredible, yeah.
It's just really great. It'll come on FX at some point. And then the spin-off, Better Call Saul, they are making it, they're writing it. They just started 2 weeks ago. And that's going to shoot, that's planned to shoot in the summer and come on in the fall. That's the plan.
And that's Vince Gilligan again and Peter Gould.
Vince will be directing the pilot and writing it with Peter Gould. Yeah.
Yes.
First of all, I love the film.
Thank you.
And secondly, I have under my Christmas tree 2 Better Call Saul T-shirts for my sons.
Oh, that's great.
So I'm
now, how old are your sons?
They're 18 and 20.
Oh, so they can watch Breaking Bad.
Yes, and they.
My kids couldn't watch that show. My kids are, they're now going to be 13 tomorrow and 15 in a week. But for years I was on this show, and they still can't. I wouldn't show it to them. I wouldn't sit in the room while they watch that. My daughter could watch it though, but my son, he'd never.
I think I have a sweatshirt in El Pollo.
Yeah, Hermanos.
Yeah, Hermanos, yeah.
Dos Pollos.
I had a question too.
Yeah, what's your question?
So you're going to be making this series,
yeah.
a spin-off. You know it's going to be a big hit. We all know it's going to be a big hit because Vince
Well, that would
Gilligan,
be nice.
he's incredibly talented,
Right.
and you were as well
Thanks.
in your role to take a character that's pretty small and comes in the second season,
Right.
and make a spin-off. You know, you're so popular by the end of the series. So what is it going to be like when you're a little older and someone else comes up to you and finds that you're like Jack Nicholson is to you today?
Well, you know, weirdly in comedy, I'm kind of like this comedy legend in some circles, in the sketch world, because I've done so much sketch. I did Saturday Night Live, Mr. Show, and this Tim and Eric show, as well as a bunch of pilots, some of which have leaked out there on the internet. And so you know, what do you do with that kind of appreciation you get from people? It depends how I feel that day. You know, if I wrote something good that day, I feel like a king. And if I wrote poorly that day, then the person compliments me and I think, oh, I'm terrible. Don't give me that compliment. You don't know what you're saying. It's just, I don't know. It's great. It's nice to be appreciated and, but what is it, man, you just got to show up to work tomorrow and do a good job. That's what you got to do every day. But look at Bruce Dern. I mean, this guy's he's a great actor. He's had to do a lot of weak material in his life just to work. You got to work, you know. And he gives it his all every time. And oftentimes he stood out in bad movies, but as something worth watching. Like, watch that guy. He's nuts and crazy, and the energy's intense. So, you know, it's just nice for a moment, and then you just got to focus on getting something good done today.
All right. Yes, sir.
How long did you stay in Albuquerque? Did you bring your family down with you?
How long was the stay in Albuquerque, and did you bring your family down?
All the other cast members did. They all moved down there and had homes or condos down there. my character was not in it enough to need to do that. Occasionally I would stay for a week or a week and a half. Mostly I would fly down. It's not that far, it's 2.5 hours flight from LA. I would sometimes go and come back the same day. I did that a couple times. That kind of wipes you out. So usually I go the day before, sleep, do the scene or two, and fly back, and then even fly back 3 days later. My kids are at an age where they need to be driven to school, and somebody needs to make lunch, and my wife is a manager, and she has a lot of work herself, so I just, it's my life, you fly down there. When I do this spin-off, which we'll shoot in Albuquerque, I'm going to have to be down there, and it was a tough decision for me because of my family. So I actually didn't agree to do the show. I said no. And then both of my kids talked to me about it. They both said, "You should do it, Dad." And here's a kid who grew up in Hollywood. My daughter, 12 at the time, comes up to me and says, "So you're not going to do that show, huh?" And I said, "No." I said, "No." And she goes, "Well, I think, it sounds like a big deal, right?" I go, "Well, yeah, it'd be a big deal." She said, this is a Hollywood kid, "If it's bad, how bad will it be?" And I go, "Well, it won't be bad. I mean, these are great writers. If it doesn't work somehow, it'll just be a cool experiment that, they tried some things and some of it worked, and it's just not going to be a dog. It's just not." She goes, "Well, I think you should do it." So, I don't know, it reassured me a lot, and my kids are getting older now. And it reassured me a lot that they'd be okay, and they both visited me down there when I did Breaking Bad, so they can fly down, and they're able to navigate the whole trip and stuff. So we'll just do it as a family.
Are you? I know that everything's kind of kept quiet around Breaking Bad. Yeah. Are you allowed to say if Saul's story picks up before or after?
I can tell you what I know because it's not much. And the last I talked to Vince about it was 3 months ago. So he has this idea of showing some prequel. And then Peter Gould talked about also people want to see what happens next to Saul when he goes to Nebraska. And so I think that it might be a mix of before Saul getting to, Albuquerque and what happens to him, and it might be what comes after, and it might be a mix, or it might be a few years of one and a few years of another. And so I don't know. I'm sorry I can't tell you more. They told me a little about there's some characters around Saul that are interesting, but if I was to tell you, they may have changed them already. That was 3 months ago.
Yeah.
So.
All right, all the way in the back. Yes, ma'am.
I was happy to see this movie twice. This is my second time tonight.
Oh, great.
I saw it at the Telluride Film Festival. I want to say that you're talking about Woody as a great character and the acting, but what about Kate?
June Squibb. No, I'm sorry. You're right. And I apologize for not immediately mentioning June, who kills it in this movie. June Squibb from Vandalia, Illinois. There's 3 Illinoisans, me, Bruce, and June. And June did Broadway for years, and she's been in many TV shows and movies. And she was in About Schmidt as the wife who passes away in the opening act. She was so great, and of course she's not like this character at all. She's a very sweet lady. However, in the course of meeting her and knowing her and doing the interviews that we did together, I discovered that she actually, when she was on Broadway, had the reputation as the foulest mouth on Broadway. I mean, she is a darling woman and sweet and wonderful. But I guess she has it in her, right? You can tell. Yeah. June?
With you, yeah. How she and Woody did, how they did their characters, without much rehearsal. Is that true?
Yeah, we didn't do a lot of rehearsal, and Bruce and June and Will all spent a week there before they started shooting, but it was mostly about getting to know each other and you know, kind of getting into the vibe of the environment. No, we didn't rehearse except to run our lines a little bit. I thought she's amazing, and watching the movie more than once is when you start to, you calm down. Because one thing is, you come into movies and you're like, oh, come on, where's the 3D thing that's going to hit me in the face? And you need to go, all right, okay, this is what this movie is. Look at this place, and you need to start to notice it. It has to dial you in to its tone, because it's so different from what we're used to seeing in theaters. Things just screaming at you. And you know, most filmmakers, they don't know what they're doing, and so they just pack everything full of, you know, there's a lot of improv on sets now. It's like, do the scene again, but make up lines. Just anything we can do to just jam something in, because it's like they have no faith in their characters or their story. And we're just going to razzle-dazzle you, you know? Somebody spin a plate for the whole scene. And so working with a filmmaker who is just like, look, this is the story we're telling, these are the people, this is the pace life goes at here. We're going to trust people to watch it and care about these people is an amazing thing. And Alexander had such confidence. There are scenes in this movie that are shot from one angle. There's no coverage, and I'm sure a lot of you know what coverage means. It means you just hit every angle so you can cut it up any way you want later and make it pace any way you want. Alexander just committed to these performances, and watching it more than one time, there's a couple things I noticed. One, how great June is in moments like in the car, where the couple comes over in that last moment where she doesn't know what to say, and she's about to say something and she realizes there's nothing more to say. It's a very quiet moment. And how great she is when she leans down and kisses Woody. It's a moment. And you just know there's a lot of affection in there. And every time I watch it, I go, what? Where am I getting that from? She doesn't say, I love you. Her only words are, you big idiot. But that is a very touching moment, and everyone feels the warmth that she opens up and shares that she had or has still for who this guy was and who he is to her on some level that we don't usually see, but you feel it. And Bruce is amazing and we talk, like I talked about how completely in the character he is, how completely lost in this character he is. But the thing I notice on repeat viewings is, you know, the childlike quality of him. You know the scenes where he's just looking out the car window at the clouds? You know those? There's like 2 of them. And it just reminded me of being a kid and going to my grandma's house, and you just stare at the raindrops on the window and watch them hit each other and go down, and you look at the clouds, and he's in whatever state he's in, and it could be his age, or it could be, like I said, a physical breakdown, or just a frustration with life and an inability to communicate, and he's becoming kind of childlike. And then to add to that moment where he goes in the bar and he gets his letter back and he folds it up, and he's like a kid who's getting back this thing that only he cares about. No one. And you know how if a kid, it's almost strange, it's like kids' awareness, they only care about what they know, and that's why sometimes if a kid's in a room and there's sexual or adult things that come on TV, you're worried for them and you look at them and they didn't even see it. Like they don't see this thing that went right past them. And it's like Woody in that moment, he's just not taking in that derision and of his dream. He's just going to invest in that and believe in it, and it's what it matters to him, and that's all that matters. It's a beautiful moment, and so he's amazing in it. Yeah.
I've noticed in a couple of Alexander Payne's movies that about Schmidt, especially in this one, it seems like there's a moment of grace or forgiveness or coming to some higher moral awareness in the films. Would you comment on this and Alexander Payne? Is this the kind of person he is?
The question is about moments in Alexander Payne films of sort of grace or
Connection,
higher
forgiveness.
sort of feeling.
I mean, I
The
don't.
son forgives the father.
Yeah. There's even a feeling, I think, in that car after we steal the air compressor and then return it and then run and get in the car, of like the family being together all of a sudden. All of a sudden they really are on the same page, and it was a great thing to do together. Even though they've been at loggerheads the whole time, and even just then yell at each other, there's just this feeling of connection all of a sudden. Is it a theme in Alexander Payne's work? I don't know. I think it's what stories do, right? I'm not sure it's Alexander so much as just what really good stories do, is make you feel connected to the people, make you and the audience feel like I'm there too, and yeah, I can relate to other people because these people are like me, and these people on screen are connecting up when they aren't usually, and so I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe it is a focus of Alexander's work, but I kind of think it's what is at the core of storytelling, which is sharing something and having everybody feel connected, the audience to it, and the people within the story find moments of connection.
You know, I felt like my family was mostly from central Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was as interested in the people that didn't connect at all.
Right.
The brothers and the just watching the game. I don't know, it's like the emotionally unavailable men who are watching the game, and the women who kind of speak their minds.
Yeah.
So I think that resonates for me as much as the characters who actually do connect.
Yeah. Well, I agree. Yeah, those moments are very real, and they play real. This lady has a question.
Yes, ma'am.
It's not a question. What you're saying is, I'm listening to you, and what you're saying is that film is real. It's real life. It's the way we've lived it. That's what's so great about the movie. You're trying to explain it, and that's exactly what it is. It is what life is about.
Yeah.
And we live it every day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
she's talking about
wonderful-
the sort of the real life,
Right.
that it is the pace and what real life is like.
Yeah, I know, and it's strange how rare you see it on screen, right? Like you literally have to go look at French films from the 60s to find it. It's so rare. But
That's terrific.
that's so nice.
That's terrific.
It's beautiful. Thank you so much. I feel so full emotionally full when I think of this movie and when I experience it with an audience.
Your feeling is right.
Well, thank you.
But it is.
Thank you.
You're absolutely right.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be a part of it. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, right here.
I have two questions real quick. The two brothers,
Yeah.
who are they?
Well, one's Devin, and the others, I forget his name. He is a local actor. The bigger, taller one is a local actor. The aunt, who, I forget her name, but she's the one who's like, Kate, you're having a senior moment. What about that money we gave you? She's a local woman who never acted in her life. In her life. No, Nebraska. We shot in Nebraska. I'd say about a third of the people at the dinner table are local people. The man who sits in the center of the living room and gets asked about his car. I didn't have a Buick. That's not mine. He's a farmer from that area. Never acted in his life. But the two brothers, one's an actor from New York, the shorter, even squatter one. And the taller one is a local guy who's been in one other Alexander Payne movie. I'm not sure which. But I'm just going to tell you a story because you asked about him. Devin, the shorter squatter one, had in his wallet a picture of his father on stage doing a USO show. You know, like a hot outfit dancing. His father was like an MC singer, and went over with June and did shows with a young, hot June. Isn't that amazing?